I never believed a magic kiss could bring a CEO back to life until it happened to me. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with despair, whispers floating like ghosts around the boardroom. I stood there, frozen. My heart hammered against my chest, a prisoner desperate to escape. The screen flickered, showing his lifeless face. James Sinclair, the man I admired, the man I thought was invincible. One moment, he was giving an inspiring speech, the next, he was gone. Just like that. A sinister silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, a lump tightening my throat. How could this happen? A ruthless heart attack, they told us. But did he see it coming? Did he have regrets? James was more than just a CEO to me. He was a mentor, a guiding light in the chaos of corporate life. His laughter echoed in the halls, a sound I now craved. Memories flooded back, brainstorming sessions, late nights fueled by coffee and ambition, his hand on my shoulder reassuring me I could do it. The warmth of his presence could chase away the darkest clouds swirling in my mind, yet, amidst the chaos, a strange feeling surged through me. Hope flickered. I had heard the legends. The whispers of a kiss that could revive the departed, a touch that could breach the line between life and death. Friends whispered of a mysterious woman in a dark corner of the city, known for her enchanting abilities. I had always dismissed the tales as myths until desperation clawed at me. I could feel the weight of their judgment around me, their murmurs sharpening like knives in the stillness. It's just a myth, someone scoffed. You can't bring him back. I needed to silence them. My heart raced. This was insanity, but what if? What if I could somehow change fate? What if I could do the impossible? I rushed out of the boardroom, the cold air outside biting at my skin. My chest heaved, and my hands trembled as I navigated the city streets. Each step echoed with urgency. The shadows loomed larger, almost challenging me. Did I dare believe? I found myself standing in front of a dimly lit shop, the sign barely hanging on its hinges, flickering unsteadily. This had to be it. I pushed the creaky door open, and the musty scent of ancient books mixed with something sweet and floral enveloped me. A strange chime sang as I entered, announcing my arrival into a world of whispered promises and dreams long forgotten. She appeared from the shadows. The woman wore a flowing gown, her eyes glinting with mystery. Her voice was soft, yet it carried power. You seek the magic to defy death, don't you? I nodded, my pulse echoing in my ears. The tension was suffocating. I could barely breathe. This was it. My chance, but as she reached for my hands, her expression shifted. A flicker of doubt crossed her face. A kiss may not be enough. It comes with a price. A chill ran down my spine. What price? My mind raced, panic clawing at my insides. I didn't care about the cost. I needed this. I needed him back. What price? I gasped, the words barely escaping my lips. She smiled, a haunting, enigmatic smile. That is for you to discover. And just like that, the world around me shifted. Shadows danced, and a whirlwind of uncertainty engulfed me. I was at the edge of a precipice, and the ground swayed beneath my feet. Would I dare leap into the unknown? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the weight of the woman's words settled over me, the flickering lights seemed to dim, deepening the shadows around us. No turning back, she said, her voice weaving through the thickening air like a thread of silk. I felt her gaze boring into my soul, an unspoken challenge hanging between us. What do I need to do? I asked, desperation staining my voice. I was prepared to betray my sanity, my very essence, if it meant bringing James back. Her smile vanished, replaced by a somber expression. To enable the kiss, you must first confront the hearts you've neglected in your own life. The gravity of those words felt like a leaden weight in my chest. Only by understanding love and loss can you reach the depths needed for the magic to work. Faces from my past swarmed my mind, friends I had drifted apart from, family members I had overlooked in my ambition, the laughter and support of those I had taken for granted. I had buried myself in my work, consumed by a desire to rise in a corporate world that twisted ambition into obsession, but now, the realization clawed at my heart. What had come of my relationships amidst the whirlwind of my career? Had I built walls so high that I had lost sight of the warmth that surrounded me? I had been a fool, and the thought pierced deeper than any dagger. The woman studied my expression, the shadows flickering around her as if the atmosphere understood my turmoil. Your first task is to mend the bonds that have frayed, she instructed. Only then can you unlock the power within. Panic surged within me, mixed with an urgency that seemed almost primal. How long do I have? Time is fickle, she replied cryptically. The magic only thrives in sincerity and intention. The longer you wait, the fainter the spark of hope. Find them, reconcile, and return here with a heart unburdened. Only then will the kiss have its significance. With that, she stepped back into shadows, her silhouette melding with darkness until she disappeared completely. Suddenly, I was left alone in the shop, the air thick with unsaid words, echoes of regret, and a daunting task ahead. My instinct told me to run back into the night, to give in to despair. But a flicker of resolve erupted within me. James deserved better than to be brought back from the dead simply because I wished it. He deserved to be remembered in a world full of live connections, compassion, and love. I stumbled out into the street, my mind spinning with faces and names, a blur of reminders of how I had neglected the people who cared for me. The emptiness in my heart morphed into an overwhelming need for redemption. I made my way to the one person I knew would understand: Rachel, my childhood best friend. The streets pulsed with life around me, yet I felt detached, as if I walked through a world of muted colors. My heart raced as I reached her apartment complex, memories flooding back of endless conversations shared over late-night fast food and the warmth of friendship. When I knocked on her door, anxiety built inside me like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. After a moment, I heard rustling, followed by footsteps. The door creaked open to reveal Rachel, her eyes wide with surprise. "Is everything okay?" she asked, a hint of worry etching her features. I need to talk," I stammered, the emotion catching in my throat like a rough stone. She stepped aside, allowing me in. The apartment felt smaller than I remembered, yet it welcomed me like an old friend. As I took a seat on the couch, I noticed the framed photos lining the walls, evidence of our unbreakable bond. Momentarily forgotten, Rachel took a seat across from me, concern etched on her brow. "You look overwhelmed. What happened?" With each word I spoke, it felt like the dam within me broke. I shared everything: the sorrow I carried from James' death, my reckless pursuit of success, and the fears I had of losing the connections I cherished. The room was silent except for my raspy breath and her soft nods. "You've always chased after your dreams, but you forgot to take us with you," she gently reminded me, her voice steady, yet laced with disappointment. "We thought everything was okay." "I thought it was okay," I whispered, drowning in self-inflicted guilt. I lost sight of what really mattered. She reached across the space between us, taking my hand in hers, a lifeline I hadn't realized I needed. "I forgive you, but you must do better. We're here when you need us. You're one of us, not just a CEO." At that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. I could still mend what I once took for granted. Maybe I could confront my past relationships, acknowledge my shortcomings, and build a bridge to my own heart before seeking the magic needed to return James. And as I stared into Rachel's understanding eyes, a new resolve filled my veins. "I want to make it right," I said softly. "For him, and for me." But just then, the phone on the coffee table buzzed, shattering the moment. Rachel reached for it, her fingers hovering above the screen as she paled visibly. "It's from the hospital," she muttered, tone turning grave. "They found a record of something unusual in James' last medical tests." My heart plummeted, fear twisting in knots. I took a breath, preparing for whatever lay ahead. But as she pressed the screen to her ear, I couldn't shake the sensation that this new revelation might be the key to something far more complicated than I had ever imagined. "Hello," she said, voice trembling. Everything within me stilled as I waited for her to turn the phone toward me, to reveal the truth hidden in the shadows. What if this wasn't just about the magic kiss anymore? What if it was something much darker, more profound, lurking beneath the surface? The silence that enveloped the room felt like a thick fog, thickening the air around me as Rachel clutched the phone tightly, her knuckles white against the plastic casing. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a frantic drum. The enormity of what could be unfolding gnawed at my insides. I searched Rachel's face for answers, but all I could see was a growing storm of emotions swirling in her hazel eyes. "Is it bad?" I finally forced out, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded slowly, pulling the phone from her ear for just a moment, and I could see the fear hanging in the corners of her mouth. "They want to meet us. They found something they never addressed in his treatment." Disbelief coursed through me. What could they possibly find now? "He's gone," I exclaimed, the words almost strangling me as I spat them out, anger and grief mixing within me like oil and water. Did they think they could magically uncover something of significance after the fact? Rachel took a deep breath, her composure shifting as she lowered her voice. "Maybe it's not just about treatment, maybe it's about the circumstances surrounding his death. They're saying there might be more to it." My stomach lurched. A million thoughts cascaded through my mind, each spiraling deeper down a darkened path. Was it negligence? A misdiagnosis? Did they miss a clue? I had to know, if only to find some semblance of peace or closure. "Listen," Rachel said, squeezing my hand tighter, her warmth grounding me. "It's a chance we need to take. If there was something we didn't know, this could help us help you understand better." The urgency of my mission surged back to life within me. I could confront my past, heal old wounds, but this glimpse of something more sinister ignited a fresh determination. Taking James' spirit back didn't just lie within magic, it could be grounded in truth, maybe even justice. "Okay," I said, resolute. "Let us go." The drive to the hospital felt surreal, as if I were stuck in a dream staged by my subconscious. Every occasional glance at Rachel confirmed my heightened sense of anxiety. We arrived at the building, sterile and cold under the fluorescent lights, an architectural embodiment of the clinical world that had taken James from me. We walked through the winding corridors, Rachel and I maintaining a fragile bond, an unspoken pulse of hope and fear intermingling. Each step felt heavier than the last as we approached the office of a doctor I'd never heard of before. His name, Dr. Sutherland, waited on the placard beside the door, ominous and unfamiliar. As we entered, my heart sank. The doctor was already seated, his expression already shadowed by the gravity of what he had to say. The air thickened with expectancy, charging the atmosphere with defined tension. "Thank you for coming in," he began, his voice steady but lacking warmth. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances. Just tell us what you found," I urged, an unsettling depth hitching my breath. Dr. Sutherland leaned forward, steepling his fingers, his eyes narrowing. "It's about the tests conducted after your friend's passing. In the autopsy, we found traces of a substance in his system that shouldn't have been there. Your friend was almost certainly poisoned." The word clanged through the room, its echo resounding off the sterile walls. The world shifted on its axis, my body vibrating with disbelief. Poisoned? The very word felt alien to me, a voice whispering from the depths of a nightmare. But who would do something like that? "We can only hypothesize at this point," he replied carefully. "We're currently reviewing all his medical interactions, searching through records for something that might provide clarity. But your friend's situation points to foul play, a deliberate act." My mind spiraled, panic mingling with rage. Who could have possibly wanted to hurt him? And why hadn't I recognized the signs before? In my quest for success, had I ignored the challenges he faced, the burdens he carried? Rachel squeezed my hand, grounding my chaotic thoughts. "We need to look into this," she murmured, her resolute presence uplifting the weight crushing my chest. "James deserves justice. You need to find out the truth. Can you get us a list of everyone who was involved in his treatment? Anyone who visited him?" I asked, the need for answers morphing my loss into a fierce quest for truth. The sense of urgency thrummed through my veins. Dr. Sutherland nodded, gratitude coloring his demeanor. "I'll do everything I can to assist you, but prepare yourself for the scars that may arise from this investigation. The truth often holds a darkness most prefer to avoid." I felt the walls of my resolve hardening. The shadows I thought I'd conquered were merely taking shape, creeping back as the reality of my mistakes lingered, and yet I had a new purpose. I needed to delve deeper into James' life, to confront the betrayal the world had inflicted upon him, to uncover whatever hidden pain had shrouded his existence. As we walked out, the weight of uncertainty clouded ahead of me like a storm, and I dared not dwell on the consequences yet to come. We were on the brink of something monumental. James' death may have opened old wounds, but it also ignited a fire within me I never knew I possessed. I had to fight, not just for him, but for every moment I allowed myself to overlook the importance of genuine love and connection. But as we stepped through the hospital's doors, a figure loomed in the distance, their presence aiming directly for us. Cold dread crept up my spine, for the determined stride and familiar silhouette sent a shiver through my resolve. The nameless shooter that had taken James was close, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike once more. As realization dawned, I froze, fear flooding my veins, and the truth became undeniably darker than I had ever imagined. "Rachel, we need to go," I managed to say, dread tentacling around my heart. But it was too late. Our quest for justice was about to take an unexpected and lethal turn. The air outside the hospital carried a chill that seeped into my bones, an unwelcome echo of the sterile cold within. As I caught sight of the figure moving closer, my heart fell into the abyss of despair. It was as if the ghosts of my past had risen again, taunting me, daring me to learn more than I'd ever wanted to know. "Come on," I urged, grabbing Rachel's hand and pulling her toward the parking lot, each step laden with dread. My mind raced with 1,000 questions. How many lives had he destroyed? What did he want from us now? But as we slipped into the car, Rachel hesitated, her eyes fixated on the shadow approaching. It all felt far too deliberate, too calculated. "You don't think is he here because he knows?" Her voice trembled slightly. "I can't think like that," I assured her, though the panic clawed away at my facade. "We have to stay focused. We need the list from Dr. Sutherland. We'll start tracking everyone connected to James." Rachel nodded reassuredly, but her brow furrowed with worry. "What if he tries to stop us?" "We'll be ready," I said, though my conviction wavered. The truth of James' poisoning had ignited a fire within me, yet now that flame flickered with uncertainty as I thought of what this very person may try to do to silence any lingering whispers of justice. The drive home was a blur of traffic lights and persistent anxiety, each honk startling me into deeper contemplation about who I had once considered a friend and now saw as a potential monster. The memories flooded back: the laughter we shared, the late-night talks, the moments when I had been oblivious to his struggles. How could I have missed the signs that perhaps he was in danger, that our shared world could hide something so sinister beneath? Once at home, I rifled through the piles of paper on my desk, trying to untangle my memories of James' treatment. Rachel stood close, her presence a comforting reminder of why I needed to push through. The responsibilities of loyalty and love had given way to an unforgiving reality of betrayal and hurt. "Let us start with the hospital records," I suggested, fumbling through outdated paperwork. My hands were trembling, a deep-seated frustration battling against my attempt to gather myself. I had spent too long letting grief consume me, believing that my sorrow was enough to honor James' memory. Now, I felt a newfound resolve. Anger surged within me, anger at the world, at the dark secrets hidden in shadows, ready to pounce. We spent hours sifting through information, piecing together the timeline of James' treatment and each name of those who visited him. My heart sank as I stared at the details of the medication he had taken. Familiar faces faded in and out, names I thought I would trust, invoking memories I had nearly buried. Each name felt heavier than the last as I whispered them into existence: Dr. Monroe, Nurse Jenny, even Sarah, who had called herself a best friend. The darkness was looming, the undercurrents of alienation were now clear, and I realized I had been surrounded by a web of deceit. As Rachel started typing on her laptop, I struggled to breathe. "Hold on, there might be something more here," Rachel called suddenly, her eyes catching a glimpse of something on screen. "Look at this, there's a pattern in the visits, an overlap with the medications." I peered over her shoulder at the screen. My very heart felt as if it skipped a beat there. In black and white was the night when several of the staff had logged unusually coincided entries in the records. It looked orchestrated, almost as if they had known something, had been too comfortable with one another while treating James. Suddenly, Rachel's phone buzzed, cutting through the heavy silence of the moment. She stared at the screen, her face paling. "It's Dr. Sutherland," she muttered, glancing between the phone and me. "He's trying to reach us again." "Answer it," I said with urgency, a sense of dread pooling in the pit of my stomach as I anticipated what he might have to say next. "Hello," Rachel answered, her voice steady but strained. The instant silence hanging in the air suffocated us both. I could see her features tense, as if whatever was being relayed was suffocated under the weight of unyielding truth. "Listen to me, you need to leave the house now," Dr. Sutherland urged, his tone laced with fear. "You're not safe. Someone's trying to cover this up," and the line went dead, static filling the void where his urgent plea had been. Rachel and I shot a terrified glance at each other, voices slipping into silence, as the enormity of the moment sank. My heart raced as the enormity of his words hung heavy in the air. "What do we do?" I whispered, panic rising in my throat. Before she could respond, a loud crash suddenly echoed from the back of the house, the sound unmistakable, a window shattering, a risking blow against our only refuge. "Get the keys," I shouted, urgency spilling into every word as I bolted toward the sound. My mind raced, my instincts telling me to flee, to survive. But a part of me ached to confront whoever it was, whoever dared to come after us. "Wait," Rachel begged, her fingers tightening around my wrist. "Don't do this. Stay together." In that instant, my world fractured yet again. I could feel danger creeping ever closer, with a specific intent directed toward us. The truth was cornering me, and the answer I sought was hidden away in the powerful grip of fear. I had embarked on a journey for closure, but now, it was painfully clear, I was running into the eye of the storm. I cast one last glance toward the door leading to the outside. Life beyond was a world away, and the consequences of chasing the truth were manifesting in the eerie shadows behind me. My heart thundered in my chest as dread settled heavy on my shoulders. And then, another crash echoed, louder this time, sending panic surging through my veins. I turned to Rachel, determination coat but dread painting my features. The hunt for justice was about to take a terrifying turn, plunging us deeper into darkness than either of us could have imagined. The world outside the broken window was swallowed by darkness, a night shrouded in fear and uncertainty. My pulse raced, and Rachel's grip on my wrist was the only anchor in the chaos which threatened to engulf us. Each echo of shattering glass felt like a mournful toll of the bell, warning us that time was running out. I felt my decision split me in two: save ourselves and flee, or confront the malevolence lurking in the shadows. "Let us find the back door," Rachel urged, her voice a mere whisper, stilling the wild thump of my heart. I nodded, the weight of urgency pulling me into action. We darted through the kitchen, side-eyeing the remaining untouched corners of our home, as if the very walls could betray us in the unfolding nightmare. When we reached the back door, I could feel the cool air seep through the cracks, and for a moment, I hesitated. Just beyond that door lay the freedom we desperately needed, yet frustration gnawed at me. Deep inside, I craved answers. I couldn't just run from the shadows manifesting into threats against us. My heart longed for confrontation, a fight against the overwhelming tide of betrayal. "Listen, we can't just leave," I implored, turning back to look Rachel in the eyes. They were wide, reflecting both resolve and terror. "If we don't uncover the truth about James, we could lose our lives," she interrupted, her breath shaky but confident. "We'll find the answers, I promise. But right now, survival is what matters together." Her words echoed like a bell chiming amidst my tumultuous thoughts. Together. In that moment, I understood that this was about more than knowledge and closure. It was about trusting each other, relying on our shared strength in an unforgiving storm. Just as I shifted toward the door, another crash reverberated through the house, louder, followed by footsteps echoing ominously through the hallway. The intruder was near. My heart sank, adrenaline coursing through my veins propelled me forward, but another glance at Rachel's determined face delivered the final push. "Let us go," I decided with a new sense of urgency, opening the door slowly to minimize noise. The fresh night air brushed against my skin, smothering the lingering remnants of fear that clung like weights to my chest. We stepped into the shadows outside, the moon a silent witness to our plight. As our feet found their grip on the cobblestone path, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. We made our way toward my aching sense of safety, but the thrill of the chase beckoned me to turn back to confront whatever had come to claim us. With each step, we moved closer to the abandoned alley that ran behind the house, a place we had played games as children, now shrouded in dark memories. With the thrill of desperation thrumming in our ears, we took refuge in the dimly lit recesses of the alley, breathless, only to listen for the malicious sounds that had chased us from our home. "Can you believe this?" Rachel finally whispered, almost incredulously. "Everything has spiraled out of control since we learned the truth about James. I thought I had grasped what losing him meant, but this is a nightmare I never saw coming." I placed my head in my hands, frustration boiling just below the surface. What was happening was far beyond grief. As if sensing my turmoil, Rachel turned toward me, her hand resting on my cheek for a moment that felt like an eternity. "We need to figure the next steps in a safer place. Let us just keep moving," she encouraged, her voice soothing as it drifted through my chaos. We finally ventured deeper into the alley when an unexpected beam of light caught our attention. A figure loomed ahead, illuminated by the faint glow of a street lamp, strikingly familiar, yet appearing like a mirage conjured from the depths of my fractured memory. "James!" I gasped, my heart crashing painfully against my ribs. No, it couldn't he be. It felt impossible, an unholy attempt at vengeance from the ghosts of my past. But no other face could have looked so heartbreakingly familiar amid the confusion of the haunting night. He stepped forward, shadows clinging to him, but this time there was no laughter, only urgent desperation. "You need to listen to me," he said, voice trembling softly, but in no way familiar. "There's no time. They're coming for you, and it's worse than you think." "James," I felt the word escape me, my heart threatened to burst with a mix of hope and dread. "You're alive." "Kind of. I'm alive in a way you can't understand. You need to trust me." His eyes pierced through the shadows, causing my heart to race once more. But as he extended a hand toward us, I felt trapped, suspended between the need to understand and the urgency to flee. The trust one had lost in so many became a weight against my chest as reality blurred into a dreamlike state. Yet before I could respond, a sudden chill swept through the alley, a dread far more sinister than the figure before us. The air became heavy, thick with foreboding as distant shouts and footsteps echoed through the streets behind us. This was no longer about confronting ghosts or unveiling truths. It had escalated into a fight for survival, with shadows lurking in each corner. "Run!" I gasped, but as we turned, my eyes flitted back to the specter before us. The longing for closure clashed violently against the instinct to escape. A swirling vortex of emotions held me captive. I had not expected to see him alive amidst the peril, much less in this twisted confrontation. Yet as looming darkness stretched toward us, the revelation clawed at my mind. What version of survival was unfolding before us? Would I put my trust in a ghost forged from betrayal, or follow Rachel into the unknown, leaving behind the evidence of a past that now felt forever tainted? The alley felt tighter, danger closed in. James was real, yet everything about this felt absurd, an intricate web I could not yet untangle. The choices before me grew heavier, darkness whispering secrets I was desperate to unearth but terrified to confront. And before I could find my voice, the alley erupted with chaos, the world as I knew it spiraling away, leaving me breathless as everything I thought I understood vacated my grasp in the blink of an eye. The chaos around us unraveled like a dark ribbon, each thread pulling at my sanity as the reality of the situation pressed down on me. I glanced at Rachel, her tight jaw and clenched fists revealing a simmering tension. The indecision roiled within me, a torrential storm, the need to know spilled like ink across my mind, blotting out common sense. If James was somehow here, claiming to be alive, did it mean we still had a chance at something resembling peace, or was it merely another trick of the shadows? "Please." James' voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, drenched in urgency. "You have to trust me. This isn't over." "Trust you?" I spat back, the bitterness rising like bile in my throat. "You left us. You disappeared without a trace." Rachel tugged at my arm, her grip like steel. "We can't afford to get lost in this right now," she breathed, panic flickering across her features. We need to move. But every instinct coaxed me to stay, to hear him out, to bridge the chasm of betrayal. The urge to believe was maddening, made all the more potent by the distance that had grown between Rachel and me since the revelations about James had shattered our worlds. Just give me one moment, I said, my voice trembling but fierce. James, what do you mean they're coming for us? As my words echoed into the darkness, his face hardened, the familiar warmth replaced by a grim determination I hadn't seen before. Their SA group, Iris. They're becoming desperate, and they'll do anything to silence us. I thought his breath caught for a moment as he glanced nervously over his shoulder. I thought you were safe, but they know you're looking for answers. I felt Rachel stiffen beside me, processing the information, grappling with the implications. Would we truly be swept back into the depths of the chaos that had consumed us? James, how do we know this isn't a trap? Rachel demanded, her voice now steady, fierce protective instincts surging forward. How can we trust anything coming from you? Because I care about you. I would never harm you, he breathed, desperation washing over every syllable. He took a step closer, eyes alight with urgency, searching my face for some sliver of belief. Please, just a few minutes. Then you can decide, run or listen, but either way, they're already moving. We don't have time. You have to understand I was trying to protect you. As his words shifted the fabric of my reality, I felt as if I was standing on the precipice of understanding, where truth and lies melted into an indistinguishable haze. The weight of wronged trust hung heavy, the lingering echoes of who he had been and who he had become battling within me. Then tell us what's going on, I exclaimed, my voice barely suppressing the torrent of confusion raging inside me. The shadows along the alley seemed to bend toward him, absorbing his secrets like a dark sponge. He inhaled deeply, steadying himself in the midst of our turmoil. You remember the company, the plans I had? Underneath it all was a project to expose a far darker agenda. I thought I could handle it, but I was naive. Those involved were dangerous. They didn't just want the project to fail, they wanted us all silenced. I had to disappear. His voice cracked slightly, revealing a vulnerability I had long since buried, masked under layers of hurt. Silenced? Rachel asked, stepping forward, a single thread of compassion weaving through her resolve. What do you mean? My survival doesn't matter, he replied somberly, urgency radiating off him. What matters is that you both escape this. You need to see the evidence before they find you. They'll come after me, and if they catch you as well. The chill in the alley intensified like ice water spilling across my spine, and for a brief moment, the fabric of my emotions let loose, a knot of anger pleading to be voiced, intertwining with fear, yet veering toward a shiver of empathy. For all the hurt he had caused, here I was, grappling not just with his return but with the time that had passed in his absence. No, I steadied myself, swallowing hard, I'm not leaving you, James. If you truly care, if this is real, then we face this together. Those words rang like a new vow in the hollow darkness, as fresh as the startled breath between desires and truths. But before we could take another step toward what lay ahead, a sudden sound punctured the night, the heavy smash of a window somewhere nearby, echoing with the weight of impending danger. We need to go. Now, Rachel urged, fear lacing her tone as we stepped back against the alley wall, the creeping shadows seeming to listen. In the chaos unfolding before me, my chest tightened as a truth bled into existence. We all had pieces of the puzzle that needed to be combined to fight against the encroaching shadows. With each heartbeat echoing in the fragile night air, I felt urgency pulse beneath the cloth of betrayal, hope stitching itself beside uncertainty. With fear rippling down my spine and the urgency swelling in my heart, I turned to face James fully. The choice before me loomed like dark specters against the moon, so painfully drawn, the lines between love, betrayal, and the stark need for survival closing in tighter. You want us to trust you, but can you trust us? Can you trust me? But before he could answer, Rachel drew in a sharp breath. Her eyes widened, reflecting the fear of the unknown, shuddering closer, shadows emerging from the fringes of our sanctuary, secrets twisted in dark threads. Behind us, an ominous figure materialized from the gloom, their presence a sharp reminder of every risk we were taking, every choice yet to be made. The revelation was clear. In this game of survival, some answers haunted us, while others sowed the seeds of hope that flickered to life in the heart of the storm. And now, in this moment, the question of who genuinely posed a threat was no longer a matter of the past, it was a chilling reality shaping our future. The stillness of the alley shattered like glass, and my heart thudded violently against my ribs as I turned to face whatever fate approached us. The figure was cloaked in shadows, their posture rigid and demanding. Each step they took seemed deliberate, bearing the weight of intent like an anchor submerging deep into murky waters. Run! Rachel's voice pierced through the tension, and instinct kicked in as adrenaline surged through my veins. I dragged my gaze away from the figure and turned toward James, panic etching deep lines into the soft contours of his face. Though I wanted to flee, a deeper urge rooted me to the spot, a desperate need to grasp the threads of our tangled relationships. I managed, the word half formed amidst the rush of emotion and fear. But before I could finish, the figure's voice cut through, cool as steel yet tantalizingly familiar. Still playing the hero, James? My breath caught. It was a voice I hadn't expected, smooth yet laced with disdain, a voice that stirred up a past I thought was buried beneath layers of grief and anger. The silhouette morphed into sharp focus as moonlight cascaded over the figure, revealing a woman with piercing eyes, one that mirrored loss but sparkled with a fierce determination. It was Vanessa, a former colleague of James, once a confidant turned adversary, tightly wound in the dark secrets of their past. "Your little game is over," she hissed, stepping closer, her heels clicking against the pavement, echoing like a warning bell across the dreary alley. "You should have stayed in the shadows, James. Now it's too late." "Vanessa," James replied, his voice tinged with a mix of regret and defiance, "you don't understand. I'm only trying to protect. Is that what you call it? By abandoning the very people who relied on you." She retorted, her words like daggers aimed at my heart. Like an audience unwittingly drawn into a grim theater performance, I stood frozen, caught between their past and my present. "Enough!" I shouted, my former uncertainty sharpening into a raw edge of resolve. "You claim to have been betrayed, but you, yourself, have chosen to wield that betrayal like a weapon. This has to stop." Rachel shot me a furtive glance, surprise flickering in her eyes, indecision painted across her face. But I didn't have time to dwell on it. The urgency pressed down on me like a loaded weight. "Why are you here, Vanessa?" I pressed, my heart racing as I swallowed the storm inside me. "What do you want?" "Answers," she replied bluntly, her expression sharpening, pride mixed with underlying vulnerability. "James knows things he shouldn't know, things he was supposed to take to his grave." James tensed, his expression a mix of anger and fear. "I don't owe you anything, Vanessa. You turned your back on all of us when the stakes got too high. Don't play the martyr," she snarled, stepping within inches of him. "This isn't just about you anymore, you've dragged them into our mess." Her eyes fell on Rachel and me, a flicker of something mercy, perhaps. Before she turned back to James. "Someone's been watching," she added, voice lowering. "All those secrets you think you can protect. It's becoming a game of cat and mouse, and I refuse to be your pawn this time." "Then help us," James pleaded, exposing the cracks in his bravado. "You don't have to be alone in this." As he uttered those words, I felt Rachel's hand shift into mine, a vulnerable bridge across our fragile chasm. My mind reeled. What side of this war were we on? James's plea clung to the pit of my stomach, wavering between collusion and genuine concern. Each heartbeat dampened by the weight of trust eroded through time together, yet here we all stood, caught in the no-man's land of fractured loyalties and desperate hopes. Vanessa's lips curled in self-derision, revealing a flicker of wistfulness. "You think this is about trust? This world is built on betrayal, James. Don't you see? You can protect them, but it doesn't mean you can save yourself. We're already too late." In that chilling instant, awareness dawned. The fragile hope I clung to was slipping through my fingers. My pulse quickened as I grasped the implication. "We're being hunted," I realized, a truth cemented by her ominous words, and that opened up an abyss of fear far greater than what had preceded it. "What do you mean we're too late?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, dread settling deep in the pit of my stomach, coiling tightly. Suddenly, the shadows seemed to shift around us, wild whispers of danger weaving a chilling tapestry in the air. Then, without warning, the darkness unfurled, and a second figure emerged, a tall man cloaked in shadow, his presence commanding, eyes glinting in the night like shards of glass. My heart sank as I recognized him. This wasn't just another threat, it was someone intimately tied to our unraveling, someone who could tip the balance. The air grew thick with tempestuous emotions, uncertainty swirling like a tempest, my heart thundering loud enough to drown out the truth rattling in front of us. This time, standing alongside the ragged remains of ourselves, we weren't prepared for what was about to unfold. "Let us see how long you can last before the truth exposes you," the man sneered, a thin smile curling against stubble, love lost in the mirage of dangers we could not yet comprehend. This was more than a reunion, it was a call to war, a perilous dance among the ruins of trust that threatened to envelop us all. I turned to James, desperation clawing at the back of my mind. "Is there another way?" But before he could answer, the figures advanced, the shadows closing like a vice around us. And in that breathless moment, all I could think was how fragile our hope had become and what it might cost if we were to emerge alive. The cold wind cut through the alley, bringing with it a shiver that crept beneath my skin, sending prickles of unease cascading through my body. I could see the tension in James's shoulders, the way his hands clenched into fists, a contradiction of strength and vulnerability. Vanessa's sharp gaze, despite its simmering fury, flickered with desperation. But now, above their discord, the looming threat of the figures pressed down harder than the chill in the air. "Who are you?" James demanded, eyes narrowing as the shadows shifted like restless specters, urging us to flee, to make a break for safety. The man in the shadows stepped forward, his presence igniting a memory, a boardroom meeting gone awry, a shared laughter ricocheting in my mind, now tainted by a grim undercurrent. "Don't pretend you don't know who I am, James," he said, his voice smooth but dripping with malice. "It's amusing, really, how tightly you hold this charade together while the world around you crumbles. All for what? To protect them." He gestured toward Rachel and me, a dismissive flick of the hand that stirred anger inside me. I squeezed Rachel's hand tighter, willing her strength into me, drawing her resolve like a beacon amidst the crushing darkness. "We don't owe you a thing," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm in my chest. James's gaze swung back to me, a look of surprise mingling with admiration, though it was laced with the elusiveness of fear. I could see it in the twitch of his mouth, the flicker in his eyes that hinted at past burdens he had yet to unravel. Would he share them, I wondered? Or would we continue encapsulating ourselves in silence, waiting for the inevitable to strike? "Enough of this," the man interrupted, his patience wearing thin. "I didn't come here to play games. You've put everyone at risk, James. All of your precious little secrets. They are no longer yours to keep. Who sent you?" Vanessa's voice quivered beneath the force of her outrage, the facade of control cracking, revealing the raw edge of her fear. "And you," the man laughed cruelly, how quaint. "Do you still think you're relevant to this story? You were merely a pawn to begin with. You still don't see the board, do you?" The air thickened with the weight of unspoken history, the walls of the alley drawn closer like a noose, inching tighter. I felt it constricting around us all until I could barely breathe. "Stop!" James shouted, forcing clarity through a thick fog of anxiety. "What do you want from us?" "Answers," as Vanessa said. "But perhaps a light of hope will suffice," he replied, his tone darkening. "I know you think you can protect your little circle. But the truth has a way of squeezing from the shadows. And it's hungry. Truth. Or lies." I shot back, feeling the fire rise in my chest, an ember ignited by the palpable tension. "What do you want? Just take what you need and spare us the theatrics." The man smirked, the amusement in his eyes cutting sharper than any knife. "You misunderstand. It's not what I need from you, but what you need of me. A simple deal, really. The price? A taste of your past mistakes. One bit of truth for a sliver of hope." "What does that even mean?" Rachel interjected, her voice trembling but filled with defiance. "It means," he leaned in, eyes glinting with a predatory gleam, "that the choice to play this game rests with you. Enough secrets kept will cost much, but revealing one might save more lives." The weight of his proposition hung like a heavy fog, filling the narrow alley and winding around us, wrapping us in its tendrils. I could feel the four of us standing at the edge of a precipice, gazing into a chasm of uncertainty below. James's brow furrowed, processing the implications of the man's offer. But inside, I could sense the flicker of hope battling against despair. We had been stripped bare, yet in this moment, I could almost feel the warmth of resilience rising, threading between us like whispered prayers. "We'll never cooperate with you," Vanessa spat, venom coloring her words, though I detected a tremor beneath the bravado. "Ah. But you'll have no choice. You either walk away into the dark or face a truth that'll shatter every remaining ounce of trust you cling to," the man said coolly, letting his words thrash through us like a tempest. I turned to James, my heart pounding like a war drum. "What do we do?" "Trust can be rebuilt," he whispered, the conviction wavering in his voice. "But we need to know enough," the man declared, stepping forward in a defensive posture, causing Rachel to flinch. "This is your warning. I suggest you all become more cooperative." And then, before our minds could catch up with the chaos, he stepped back into the swirling shadows, vanishing as easily as he had appeared, leaving behind a heavy silence that felt more like a gravitational pull than the absence of sound. "What now?" I asked, dread knotting in my stomach, the possibility that our lives hinged on a perilous choice swirling through my thoughts like wildfire. James released a shuddering breath, his face ashen. "We prepare and take back control before it's too late." In that dreadful moment, I felt a crack forming, not just in our tenuous alliance but within me, a fracture growing with every breath, increasing the urgency but also defining the pathways towards our resilience or doom. I could see despair lurking in James's eyes and felt Rachel's grip tightening around me, a fragile beacon amidst uncertainty. But as we turned to leave the alley, the air tinged with something more ominous than what we had faced, a lingering shadow stalking our every move, whispering its warnings as darkness pooled around our ankles, and somewhere deep within me, a horrifying realization blossomed without restriction. There were truths hidden within our lives that, once unveiled, could unravel everything we had fought to preserve. The chill of the alley clung to me as we stepped back into the dimly lit street, the weight of the man's words heavy upon our shoulders. Each footfall felt heavier than the last, as if the cobblestones had grown into anchors, dragging us deeper into despair. James walked ahead, shoulders hunched, lost in a tumult of conflicting thoughts, while Rachel stayed close, her breathing shaky but her determination evident. "Was that really a threat?" Rachel finally said, breaking the silence that hung like oppressive fog around us. "What does he know about us?" James turned, his face lined with worry. "He knows more than we thought possible. This goes deeper than we imagined." He hesitated, the shadows of doubt flickering across his face. "We're not just being watched. We're being hunted." "Maybe we should tell someone," I suggested, but the vain hope in my voice wavered. "The police." "My mother would want your mother," Vanessa interjected, her voice edged with sharpness. "She's part of this mess. You think they'll believe us? Or her?" Her eyes burned with an intensity that made me flinch. "No one is coming to save us. We have to protect ourselves." A wave of tension rose between us, thickening the air even further. I couldn't shake the feeling that our trust was fraying, the bond we'd built teetering dangerously close to collapse under the weight of buried truths and old grievances. As we walked, I caught glimpses of the world around us, cars whizzing by, oblivious pedestrians lost in their own lives. Would they, too, feel the shadows creeping closer? My thoughts spun like a whirling dervish, but my heart was steady. I had to hold on to hope. All of this felt wrong, but I couldn't let despair crush Rachel and James. "Let us just go to my place," I suggested, desperation edging my voice. "We can figure things out there. Together." Nods of acquiescence followed, and we turned towards my apartment, a small sanctuary in a chaotic world. The familiar comforts inside felt like a fragile fortress against the ominous threat pursuing us. As we settled into the cramped living room, I tried to breathe deeply, to calm the pounding in my chest that matched the chaotic rhythm of the day. I poured hot tea into chipped mugs, the steam curling upwards as if trying to escape the heavy atmosphere. "New rules," I announced, trying to inject some levity into our fraught gathering. "No secrets. We have to trust each other." "Trust," Rachel echoed, her eyes scanning the room as if looking for some hidden assurance. It's not that simple. James finally met my gaze, grey eyes piercing me as if searching for answers. What did he mean about our past? What is he after? A long silence stretched between us, heavy with the burden of unspoken truths. I took a shaky breath, the silence almost suffocating. We need to confront what we've been avoiding. I felt bile rise in my throat as memories pushed forward regrets, betrayals, the unsaid between us. If we're going to survive this, we can't let our pasts steer us into oblivion. We must face it. But how? Vanessa asked, and there was a softness in her voice I hadn't noticed before. I could see layers of fear peeling back, revealing vulnerability. Some things hurt too much to unearth. Yeah, but what if the cost of hiding them is greater? James chimed in, his own fears laced with frustration. What if we lose everything because we refuse to face what's right in front of us? I looked from one to the other, anguish aching in my chest. We can take turns. One truth at a time. A small step. Reluctantly, they nodded, and I felt the shifting of an invisible barrier between us, a willingness to dig deeper. James leaned back, folding his arms. All right, I'll start. He looked away, focusing on a memory I couldn't see, and then took a breath, almost imperceptibly. Last month, I received an anonymous message. Someone warned me about a meeting I was set to attend. Why didn't you tell us? Rachel asked, her voice rising slightly. I didn't. I thought it was a prank at first. Just noise. Just a trick to rattle me. His honesty was raw. But then things started. Happening, incidents at work, changes in management I couldn't explain. And I realized. This is not a coincidence. James the first began, but he cut me off. Your turn now, tell us something, anything. As I sat in the thick silence of anticipation, I felt my heart race. Buried deep within me was a truth I had hidden not only from them but even from myself. But would this be the moment to reveal it? Doubt gripped me, but then I glimpsed the flicker of trust in their eyes, a lifeline I desperately needed. And with that moment of resolve, I opened my mouth, ready to shatter the fragile peace and confront whatever shadows lingered in the corners of my mind. But before I could utter a word, a loud crash shook the door, splintering the stillness that had momentarily enveloped us. It echoed like a gunshot, sending a jolt of terror through my veins. Stay here, James ordered, moving instinctively toward the door, but I knew what lay beyond it was more dangerous than any of us had anticipated. The echoes of our past collided with the present. I could almost taste the fear in the air, and as I braced myself for whatever came next, a chilling thought settled within. There were truths we had yet to discover, and some things are best left buried. The pounding grew louder, a reminder that the storm was brewing, and our lives were about to change irrevocably. Whatever was on the other side of that door wasn't just an interruption, it felt like a reckoning. The door burst open, splintering the wood, and in walked the figure cloaked in shadows, the same man who had threatened us in the alley. My heart plummeted into my gut, adrenaline flooding my system. There was no escaping this. The moment I had dreaded had finally found us. Your little secret meeting ends here, he said, his voice a dark melody that twisted my insides. You've spent too long in the dark, and now the light is coming to expose you. Get back, James shouted, stepping protectively in front of us, an unwilling barrier to whatever chaos awaited. The air thickened with uncertainty as rage danced behind the man's eyes, flicking between the four of us like a predator hungry for prey. Have you really convinced yourselves that there's no way out? It's too late, he taunted, pacing slowly, the shadows flickering like flames around him. Rachel's hand gripped mine tighter, and I felt her trembling, a silent acknowledgement of the imminent threat. Who sent you? I managed, my voice small against the cacophony of dread surrounding us. It doesn't matter, he replied, his gaze narrowing, eyes glinting with malice. What matters is that James has some very important friends. Friends who are growing tired of his little escapade. Friends. James spat, each syllable slicing through the tension. They're not my friends. They're the reason I had to disappear. Would you call them less than that? They gave you everything you needed. Wealth, power, a seat at the table. And what did you pay them in return? He paused, a smile creeping across his lips. Your soul. This last statement lingered in the air like a fog, heavy with implications. My heart raced. This man knew things I could scarcely comprehend, a dark truth entwining tightly with James' past. That I pointed my finger at the intruder, trying to gather my courage as fear coiled around my heart. This isn't over. We know more than you think. We're done being your pawns. Oh, sweet girl, he said, shaking his head in mock pity. You have no idea what you're up against. But this little fight of yours. It's cute. He stepped closer, fingering the edges of the darkness that clung to him. But your resolve doesn't matter, their secrets will consume you all. With a sudden movement, he lunged forward. James! I screamed, but before I could blink, James was already reacting, intercepting the man with a force I hadn't anticipated. A scuffle erupted, the sounds of flesh against flesh mixing with the chaos swirling within my mind. What are you doing? I yelled at Rachel, who was already reaching for the closest thing, a coffee mug, and wielding it as if it were a weapon. Defending ourselves, she shouted back, rage fueling each breath. I am so tired of running. Just then, the man broke free from James' grip, but without hesitation, he turned his fury toward Rachel, dark intentions flooding his eyes. You think you can fight for him? You're merely collateral in this game. A surge of panic washed over me. No, I shouted, but it was too late. The man lunged, and then everything exploded into chaos, a crash, a scream, and in that moment, it felt like time froze, capturing the raw terror in my chest. But then came the unmistakable sound of hurried footsteps in the hallway outside, the creak of more voices gathering urgency, growing louder. Get away from her, a voice barked, and in that single moment, the tide turned. From behind the figure came Dr. Sutherland, flanked by a couple of nurses, shock clearly painted across their faces. Let her go. Now. The intruder turned, surprise flashing across his features, and in that singular split second, James seized the opportunity. He lunged again, this time non-stop, knocking the man to the ground with an intensity I'd never seen before. It was as if every emotion, a mix of loss, betrayal, and rage, funneled into that moment. The room descended into disarray, my heart pounding like a battle drum as Dr. Sutherland ducked forward. We need to restrain him. Now. He's dangerous. And just like that, the tension morphed, the weight of fear mingling with a threadbare sense of resolve. James held him down while the nurses quickly secured the intruder, binding him tight in a flurry of activity that felt eerily exhilarating. As the chaos began to settle, I turned to James, the adrenaline receding but the questions still bubbling beneath the surface of everything we had just experienced. What is he talking about? James met my questioning gaze, vulnerability etched into his features. It's my past, the people I worked for, the project I thought could change everything. I didn't just walk away. I ran. A pang of empathy shot through me, and all the unresolved pain seemed to collide elegantly with my own. James, you should have told us. You don't have to bear this alone. Dr. Sutherland walked over, breathless with urgency. I'm calling the police, he said, glancing at the restrained man on the floor, then quickly shifting focus to us. You're all safe for now, but this isn't over. We have to understand what he knows. Then, almost as a phantom, Rachel stepped closer, her gaze already aflame with the weight of the future. Safety isn't just about escaping. We must confront everything, the truth, the pain, the secrets binding us all. And in that moment, I felt a shift in the atmosphere, a flicker of understanding sparking between us all, a restorative kindling rife with the firesome oath, that we would fight for our truths, for each other, and perhaps even for our lives. As Dr. Sutherland tended to our captor, the air lightened ever so slightly. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the scent of possibility and fear wrapped in the instant warmth of togetherness. Whatever lay ahead, we would face it side by side. Each truth unearthed would carry a price, a painful unraveling of what we thought we knew, but beneath that was an unshakable bond, a fierce bond ready to overcome the darkness. And as I stood with Rachel and James, the essence of our loyalty igniting the air around us, one powerful thought crystallized in my mind: we would emerge from the ashes not as mere survivors but as warriors of our own destinies. As we took the first steps into the uncertain horizon ahead, I whispered to the night, together, we will redefine our truths, and rise again.